All right, guys, it's me, Hey Nakwi here, back and doing a special Rep to Rep interview with Peter Lerner, who's the Director General of Histadrut. I'm pretty sure I've mispronounced that.
Histadrut, you said right. My job is I'm head of the International Relations Division. So I mean, there's Director General of the entire Histadrut, but I'm in charge of the international affairs.
And I'm actually quite proud of this because this is my first Rep to Rep interview with someone of your sort of caliber, and just wanted to explore because I'm at the TUC Conference in Liverpool, and the way how it's going, the energy, the vibe is just everyone's just geared up to try and make society better, and it's quite nice hearing trade union movements all over the world and what they're doing, and the same struggles that they're going through. It is quite universal, trying to fight for workers' rights to improve society and make sure that everyone is better off. And again, having the same sort of obstacles within government and stuff like that. And you literally, with one of the articles I read, you literally brought the Israeli government to its knees because of the one-day general strike that you done.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they were looking to, I can't remember what it was, but it was something to do with the legislation. They were trying to remove something from it.
So the government is currently trying to advance legislation, which ultimately would mean the judicial system would be subordinate to politicians,
right,
which we all understand is a bad thing for society. You don't have a justice system that has to answer to politicians. They need to be separate and equal, and the ability to, the checks and balances need to be very, very clear. And indeed, the government has proceeded over the last almost 10 months now, a process of trying to advance this. It reached a peak in March, on the 27th of March, when the Histadrut, the General Federation of Labour in Israel, came in and said, this is it. The situation on the streets is crazy. Defence issues are of core concern. The government and the opposition need to sit down and do what decent democracies do, talk, negotiate, and come to agreement, like we do as trade unionists. Yeah. For us, it's obvious. We did a 11-hour, it wasn't even one day, it was an 11-hour strike. Began in 11 o'clock in the morning. At 10 o'clock at the night, Netanyahu announced that he's putting a pause on the process so that the sides can negotiate. We still haven't come out victorious, but it's small victories in this little battle of how our democracy is going to be in the future.
Sorry, I've also got Doreen here who's helped to organise this. I wanted to give a massive shout out to her, so thank you for this.
Thank you.
Now, you're gone.
I would like to say who I am, actually. I'm Vice Chair of Britain-Israel Trade Union Dialogue, BITUD, and we work closely with the Histadrut, and we bring out UK trade unionists that have been selected by their unions to visit Israel and also to visit the Palestinian workers who work in Israel.
That's absolutely amazing, because of the work that you guys are doing, it's bringing it's dispelling a lot of the myths that are going on out there. Now, I actually want to explore a little bit about yourself, because having read a little bit about yourself, you're a lieutenant colonel within the IDF as retired, and then you moved into the world of trade unionism. What made you decide to go that sort of route?
So when I retired from the military in 2017, I wanted to be a full-time dad. That's all I wanted to do. That was basically, I was very content with my contribution to Israeli society up until then, and then I just decided that my retirement age, I reached full retirement age in the military. I was 44 at the time, and I retired happily to be a full-time dad. And the trade union movement approached me and said, we have a role that we think you would be a good fit. Would you put your name forward? And I asked my wife what she thought. She said, from a political standing, you will be obviously in line or aligned with the ideals of the trade union movement because of what I believe in. Yeah. Professionally, it would be a good challenge, something you'd like to do. You like the engagement on international affairs. The only problem was I had to convince my daughter, who had the fun of a full-time dad after so many years of being in the military. And the only thing she said to me was, Daddy, but who will take me to school in the morning? And so once we got past that, I said, as long as I'm around and you want me to take you to school in the morning, I'll be around and do it. And basically now she's at the age where she doesn't really want see me at all. I'm embarrassed. She's embarrassed of Daddy. So now I'm free to work. The transition from the military, which is the biggest organization in Israel that is not allowed by law to have a union,
Right.
to the trade union movement wasn't too difficult, because I do see the connection of defending a country and defending a community of workers. And I do believe that a strong military, on one hand, ensures a safe state of Israel. A strong trade union movement ensures a safe society in Israel. So for me, it was a very, I would say, natural transition, although sometimes people see the defense establishment as more right-wing, but in Israel, most of the people that retire, most of the generals that retire are actually aligned more to the left.
Yeah, which is quite interesting. You've just done a fringe meeting here, and there's a lot of things that came out today from the fringe meeting where you was talking about more unity with the Palestinian and the Israelis, because everyone's going through the same thing, in essence, which is penalization. They're being harassed at work. You've taken the government to court, I believe, over quite a few of the labour laws that have been that were unfair in many aspects. I know Histadrut has had a major policy change in 2009 where it started allowing migrant workers to come on board. And as that took place, how has that shaped the trade union movement in Israel?
So what determines who can be a member of our federation is not where you come from, but where you work. So when you work in Israel, you're entitled to be a member. You benefit from the collective bargaining agreements that we make, and that is our role. So when we are organizing Palestinian workers that are working in construction, or upskilling Palestinian workers that are in an industry, in order to elevate their the value that they independently or individually get, but also the economy receives from a more professional worker, so everybody is benefiting. We need to make sure that this is the essence of the trade union activities in the realm of the relations between Israel and Palestine. Unfortunately, it's too easy for us to criticize the political action, but sometimes we forget at the end of the day our role as people that take care of workers. And while it's good to demand politicians deliver the political aspirations of a two-state solution for Palestine and Israel living side by side in peace, it's also important not to forget the workers at the end of the day. We have over 120,000 Palestinians that come daily to work in Israel, and we need to ensure that they are skilled, that they are protected, that we are lobbying on their behalf to the government so that they're not exploited or that the exploitation is decreased, and that we give them as a union the services that they need in order to be empowered. And that is what we see our role in this whole political situation, but more importantly, individual situation for people. Because we are a people organisation. That's what trade unionism is about.
In the UK, we had an LBC radio presenter by the name of Majid Nawaz. He was a great supporter of Israel. But he would put out there that, look, all the stuff that the media is saying, that it's Israel, just Jewish, Zionist, so on and so forth, he kept on pointing out that, look, there's an Arab judges out there, there are Palestinians that actually come to work here, there are people, there's even Arab political parties that are trying to put their stamp in. You was quite vocal about how many political parties there are in Israel at the moment. Is that down to the voting system, or is that down to the democratic process that Israel has got?
Our democracy has always been determined by splits and mergers of the political parties. The political system in Israel is one where you need to have a coalition. So every interest group, whether they are sectorial or ethnic, or they establish their own political parties, and therefore we have Arab parties and ultra-Orthodox Jewish parties. We have nationalistic parties, and we have social democratic parties, and we have centrist parties, and we have right-wing parties, and so on, and left-wing parties, and that is the way the makeup of our society. I would say that that is also reflected in the trade union movement. In our governing body, in the Histadrut, we have political representation from all of the political parties. And at this time in history, what we are saying to the government is solve the problems like we solve the problems of the workers with everybody. We're able to negotiate on behalf of all of these people because we have representation of all of these people. If we only talk to one specific sector of society, then there are going to be a lot of disgruntled people. And we believe that there is a way to move society forward if you are more inclusive. And that's how we manage our negotiations. That's how we manage the vision of our organization of being an address for everybody in Israeli society, no matter where your background.
I think we can all agree that the trade union movement has been a force for change. How do you feel that the trade union movement can force more societal change? Because again, here, as Doreen will be able to agree with me, when you're trying to recruit people towards a trade union, whatever trade union is, whether it's the RMT, USDOR, you always going to get a perception of, they're left-wingers, they're this, they're going to cause all kinds of trouble rather than actually looking to address the problems and deal with it. So what are the sort of obstacles that you're finding within Israel as a trade union movement to help in terms of a societal level?
I think the number one key to any trade union around the world, especially in Israel, for public standing is good deals.
Right.
You have to sign good collective agreements that benefit broad segments of population, and that people look at your organization or your union or your federation at each different level and saying, these are actually contributing to my welfare as an individual. Our numbers, I'm happy to say, are growing. We have a 3% increase in the last year, and over the last 10 years, it's a 2% increase almost every year of our membership. So there's people that are looking at us and saying, they're actually doing something good that is in my interest, and so therefore I will be a member. It also helps if you have labor laws which are, and the labor laws in Israel are good for labor. The whole system was established in the 60s, 70s, the 40s, 50s, 60s in Israel was based around the social democratic model of Israel with a mindset of the worker in the center of the decision-making process, which is good, and we still very much lean on that legislation today. And our ability to organize as a result means that people are members and they benefit from that membership. It's not without problems. There are still a lot of people that feel like what you said, disgruntled, discontent. Yeah. They're there to disrupt and not contribute as unions, as organizations. But I would say that for us to grow, for us to be influential, we need to look at the worker and we need to put him at the heart of the decision-making process. In the last 6 months, we've signed two groundbreaking collective bargaining agreements with this extreme right government.
Yeah.
This is just the thought of it.
Yeah. Because that has been the fear in the media right throughout that it's not just extreme right, but quite authoritarian.
Yeah.
In terms of their approach and how they're dealing with, we're seeing it on TikTok, we're seeing it everywhere, which is that the people on the ground are suffering through their policies.
So our collective bargaining agreement, for instance, in the public sector, in some cases will create a 20% page increase, which is, it's a nice rise,
that's
yeah?
Nice. That's nice.
In the more weaker sectors of society, like teachers' aides, which they're underfunded, under manpowered, and mostly women-powered actually. We've increased to a 30% wage increase in a specific sector. So the benefit of being able to, on one hand, tell the government, these are the framework of what you can do, and with regard to the judicial upheaval and the revolution that they're trying to do. But on the other hand, negotiate good agreements which are beneficial for society is our credit. That's what that is what we go to the members for. That's what we say. This is the huge success of our chairman, our non-brother David, who is able to say, stop the crazy. Let's do good for people, and that's our guiding star.
Now, I know this is going to sound a bit controversial, but I actually had this as a question posed, put to me to ask for yourself, which was, in the past, Histadrut was accused of supporting government policies regarding Palestinians. Yet, I mean, here at the TUC Congress, we've seen your stand next to, pretty much very close to the Free Palestine stand as well. So, obviously, it seems as though you, and again from the Fringe meeting, it is quite clear that you're more about peaceful coexistence. And you did mention about the Palestinians, trade unions, as well as Histadrut. How do you feel that you guys will get greater unity in terms of equal, support?
So I would say it first of all, has to happen between the two federations. I would say today we have a good relationship with the Palestinian General Federation of Trade Unions. It's practical. It could be better for workers, I would say, but it's a respectful relationship.
Yeah.
It's out of mutual respect, and I would say more importantly, mutual solidarity. Our perspective is Palestinians commuting daily to Israel to work in Israel. They are entitled to defense of the union. If we work together, those workers can benefit more. So that's the perspective. On the other hand, of course, there is the political aspirations which need to be sorted out by the politicians, and we need political leadership that can deliver that. Unfortunately, today we have, on both sides, we don't have political leaders that can deliver that. So we need to, as a movement, as a trade union movement, and I say this especially to the TUC and to British unions, you need to rally around the union movement in order to empower workers. That's what we need to be doing as a union movement. That's what we need to be doing for people. That's what we need to be doing more specifically for the workers.
Which was part of the reason why I set this channel up in the first place, so that we can expose the against the narrative that's put down by certain members of the media, that we're not the bad guys. We're actually doing what we need to do, which is defend our rights, make sure that people are paid fairly, and ensure that there is justice for people who are being denied a voice. And that has gone a long way. So, in talking about that kind of thing, for yourselves, what is the sort of challenge to getting rid of any of the negative narrative? Because I'm pretty sure here in the UK you've seen it. I'm pretty sure in Israel that will most likely be the case, that you don't want to deal with the trade unions here because they're what I mean. How are you bypassing the sort of media?
So we are campaigning both in traditional media, also in social media, for a reasonable, decent trade union movement. So we represent workers from all political walks of life, but we represent them professionally. We're very cautious in. This is a thesis that I have. Around the world, where you've seen over political trade union movements, you've seen a decline in their influence. And I think we need to be very cautious where we get involved on the big politics. We need to be focused on labor issues, first of all, and then think about the broader political issues. And when we try and engage on the broader political issues, they need to be very well connected to our issues of workers' rights and decent pay, the core issues around the movement. But we need to have a clear voice about the other issues, but are they at the forefront of our campaigning? In Israel, we're very, very cautious about the bigger political issues. We don't want to replace the government. We are not the government. We are the trade union movement. And as such, when something is disrupting trade unionism or disrupting workers' rights or potentially disrupting workers' rights, that's when we get involved in national politics. But rather standoffish and calculate when you're getting involved. And people in society now are appreciating that more and more, and that is why our numbers are growing. But it's an uphill struggle, because people still look at us as these lefties that are causing all of this trouble. And we say we can be lefty in our labour stance regarding people and workers, but we are responsible enough to realize, and that responsibility, for instance, came during the COVID crisis, where reasonable understanding of how to manage the situation on the ground of the crisis was the country Israel, like everywhere in the world, needed reasonable social partners in order to manage the crisis. And that is where the trade union movement stepped forward and said, this is what we're doing for workers. This is what we're doing. We're enabling the government to do distance working, work from home. And we didn't fight it, we supported it, but managed it in a way that the workers would not be hurt. So that is the type of idea that I think is bringing the success of the Histadrut to society. I can't say, there are still people that are detractors, and we have to work at it every day, and we have to, as a movement, stand up, look ourselves in the mirror every day and say, are we, do we deserve the people we represent? Do we contribute to them? We need to look ourselves and honestly say into the mirror, yes, this is what I've done for workers today.
That's fascinating. I will admit that is we have a lot more similarities than we have differences.
Sure.
Even geographically, we have the same challenges, and I hope with this we can dispel quite a few of the myths which are out there, especially for yourself, because you're within the British-Israeli trade union movement, but you clearly in your literature you've talked about all kinds of people, not just one group of people. You like more. How are you finding it now within the UK? Because I know that there's still, I hate to say it, in London there's a north-south divide. North London you have a lot of the Jewish community that are pro-Israeli but will be pro-Netanyahu Israeli, as opposed to looking at Labour Party in some of these other places. And in the south of London you have slightly pro-Palestinian, but not looking at Israel as Israel is a country, and the people who are being the bad guys in most respects would be just the government, because they're the ones putting the policy in, using the IDF as a system, as a tool to execute their policies. So how are you finding it as a trade union movement?
Right, well, we're, I don't know about the London-centric. I'm based in Manchester, my colleague is in London.
Sure.
But the issue is that people look at our organisation, I think, because we try to meet and join the two peoples. We try to involve the British UK trade unions together with the Israeli trade unions to meet the Palestinian trade unions. So we're like three peoples trying to encourage involvement and cooperation. So it's easier than London, north and south, because I really don't get involved in that.
Absolutely.
But it's very, very important for our delegations when we take them out to meet with the Palestinians. We also meet with the Palestinians who are working in Israel and speak to them and on one-to-one basis and find out how happy they are there any things that they don't want to do in Israel. And to be honest, the majority of Palestinians who work in Israel are fine. They have a good rate of income. The Histadrut insures them. They are part of the Histadrut. They're not dealt with separately because they're Palestinians. So overall, it's fine, Politically, it's different in Britain, but for our organisation, no, it's not a problem.
And for the viewers there, just in case if you're wondering why I wasn't getting Doreen involved, it's because I am a chauvinist. But I'm kidding. But I have to wrap this up now, and I do appreciate the time that you guys have given. Where could people find out more about the Histadrut and the British Israeli Trade Union?
Dialogue, BITUD.
BITUD. All right. So is that a website that they will go to?
Yes, we have a website, and we're BITUD, Britain Israel Trade Union Dialogue.
Is that open to anyone?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So it doesn't matter what profession you're in or anything?
No, you can log on and join us and ask questions, and we'll be delighted to answer you.
Okay, and with Histadrut?
Histadrut globalhistadrut.org.il.
And as always, guys, like I've always said, there's a trade union for any profession. Please join a trade union. They're fighting for your rights. If you guys don't understand it, you need to go back to school. So says Hadi Nakwi.
Solidarity.
Solidarity.